Welcome to our Meet the Candidate series. We are here with Tim Steele defending his seat in West Anchorage. How are you today?
I'm doing just fine.
Okay, so I'm going to get right into it.
Sure.
What makes you the most qualified candidate for this assembly position this year?
Well, I've got 4 years behind me on the assembly. That's the learning phase. And I spent 10 years on the school board, so I'm not a novice in politics. But there's a lot going on in West Anchorage. We've been successful in getting a number of projects going. I attend all the community council meetings, but the community is a great community, and I think I represent it well. I've lived there since '85, and so that's my home.
All right. Well, if voters elect you for another term, what's your big priority for this next one? What's an action that you want to take right away?
The big priority with the economic condition in the state, we to a certain extent are going to be impacted big time by what happens in Juneau. But my goal here on the assembly is to keep the status quo, keep moving forward in terms of projects and activities. The last thing we need to do is retrench and pretend that it's a real desperate situation and companies go under, jobs are lost, and so on and so forth. So it's continue looking to the future and preparing for it.
All right, so you are part of the assembly that recently passed the budget for the next fiscal year. So what are your thoughts on how that turned out? Is there something you would have liked to see happen differently?
It's a pretty good budget. Like I said, it's a budget that looks to the future, and it continues the progress that we're making. The problem is going to be, what's the state going to do to us? But there's a number of projects that are going to happen this summer. There's a number of projects that are coming up. And I think I'm in tune with the administration in terms of keeping focus on building for the future. And that's what we're doing.
Do you support implementing a sales tax as a way to shift some of the burden off property owners who currently are feeling the full weight of that right now? I'm talking about like a sales tax under the cap.
We discussed that, and we put it on hold to see what the state does. The state is going to have to broaden their tax base and not just rely on the permanent fund and oil. Oil may be coming back based upon fines up on the North Slope and so on and so forth, but you can't count on it. So we've got to broaden our tax base. The property tax owners have been paying a significant amount of the freight, and we need to just broaden it out a little bit. So a sales tax or an employment tax of some sort, but I think a sales tax, a small one, and hopefully we can piggyback with the state, because the state's going to need revenue and get centralized, get the state to collect it, and would get our portion of it, kind of thing. So it broadens it out. It doesn't expand the costs, but it broadens out who's paying.
What grade would you give Anchorage, I guess the mayor's office and also the assembly? How do you think y'all are doing handling Anchorage's homeless problem?
There's a plan, and there's a lot of people, a diversified group of people, public, private, social service agencies working together on that problem. And I think we're making progress. It's not solved by any stretch of the imagination, but we're getting people the services they need. We're getting them out of all the big problem has been they've been visible. The homeless people have been visible out in the parks and the green belts, and everybody got upset about that. Well, that's not the best way for people to live, and so we're trying to get people into housing, and housing first is the motto. So.
All right. The mayor wants to add 56 new police officers in this next fiscal year. Do you think there are ways other than hiring more officers that the Anchorage Muni can address public safety concerns?
Well, there's a lot of ways to address public safety concerns. Be neighbors, be vigilant, neighborhood watch. But the bottom line is we let the police department get too low, and we've had a number of retirements, and we're getting good candidates. We're building them. We had a couple of academies, 30 officers each, this last year. We've got one now that's going, and we'll have another one after that. The goal is 450 officers. We won't reach that in the next year, but we will probably have 420. And so we're making progress. And rather than just being out there responding, folks can do a little preventative work. And the APD is trying to do that now, working with community councils and other groups to beef up community watch, report what you see, and while at the same time we're training. It takes 7 months for an academy, and then you have to ride along with another officer for 3 months or so before you get out on your own. So just building up the police force, the last thing you want to do is hire a 17 or 18-year-old and give them a gun and say, go do it. So we're working hard trying to develop the police department in the right way, and that's a major component to public safety.
And that was a big priority with this budget just passed.
Yes.
Are you okay with spending more for more police officers and cutting back on other services like snow plowing?
Well, at the moment we have to. Snow plowing is not that we cut back on it, it's that the state pulled back and we had to pick up their efforts as well. And so it was a strain on personnel, but more than personnel, it was a strain on equipment. We had to, we hired the outside, we hired contractors to haul snow for us. And so it was a tough road. And we unfortunately didn't talk to the Weather Service and tell them we didn't need a major snow dump this year. It's been a long winter, and we didn't do the greatest job, but we will do better.
All right, the mayor has said he will not allow our police department to round up refugees for the Immigration Service, even under the threat of losing federal funds. Is that something you agree with, or do you disagree?
I don't want to lose federal funds, but we're a nation of immigrants, and unless those immigrants are criminals, not just because they're here illegal, not just because they came across that's a victimless crime to a certain extent. But I'm concerned that the federal government has gone a little far in terms of their fear of immigrants. We're all immigrants. Let's face it, unless we're Native American, we're all immigrants. And so we need to be a little more sensitive to that issue.
Okay. Do you think the city should find a way to allow ride-sharing companies like Uber and Lyft to operate here? I know we've got a bill coming up before this election, or an ordinance. What is your vote going to be on that?
You know, I don't know. It's a tough road. Uber has had a lot of bad press lately in terms of how they've operated and the impacts of those TNCs. You know, not just Uber, Lyft, and other companies that have done it. It's a great concept, but it certainly isn't a valid replacement for the taxi services that we have. We have put the pressure on the taxis to improve. Their cabs are looking better. They're responding better. There's still a little work to do on dispatch in terms of a fairness in the dispatch systems. Get the cabs to the people in a priority such that people don't have to wait too long. I don't know how I'm going to vote on it, bottom line. We tried them, and it was not all that great when they were in here voluntarily. We'll see how it works out. I don't know how all my compatriots. I'm only one vote, but we'll see what happens.
Okay, well, that's an undecided, but we should know before the election day. So last question for you. Yeah. What is one promise that you can make to voters right now that you will fulfill if reelected?
I will always work in West Anchorage's best interest. I came to Alaska 30 years ago and bought a house in West Anchorage. Still own the house, still live in that house. I was married in Alaska. I was raised my kids in West Anchorage. They went to West Anchorage schools. I have the best interests of West Anchorage at heart.
All right, Tim Steele running for West Anchorage. Thank you for your time.
You bet.
Best of luck.
We'll see.